I'm just going to show you all the resources that we've been talking about, whether they're ours or self-study or self-e-learning or the library or wherever they come from. And you'll see how many there are. There's a lot. So the question will be, how do we kind of bring them all together coherently for students and staff to find. I'll talk a bit more about the WebLearn module that's just that we're beginning to design and think about. And I'll talk about the Clued Up Digital Literacy site that me and Chris have been working on a little bit as well. Then I think Chris will talk about Take 5 and
Heroes.
And Heroes and Villains, yeah. So I won't talk much about Take 5, but basically that's what it looks like in its latest version without the blue banners. That's just to describe what it is. It's just this. Okay, so to give you an idea, Take 5, if you look on that document, it's really about sort of academic literacies primarily, and it's about helping staff to engage with their teaching in, what was Sandra's words? I think sort of cultural emancipatory practice, basically. So creative ideas for teaching that they can bring in very quickly and easily, and it's divided into different sections, but I'll let Chris go further into that. So that's Take 5. Now these first ones are all staff-facing resources. The second one is the e-matrix, some of you know already, so this is all about technology-enhanced learning or blended learning, so that would contain resources to help staff bring technology into their teaching. So that might be using WebLearn creatively with their students, it might be using all kinds of other technologies as well. So it's about blended learning really. And then the next one, and this is the one I've been working on more recently, is, I've called it StudyWise for now, just an idea. Feel free to shoot everything down, don't mind. But yeah, so StudyWise is the idea is to have a WebLearn module that is open to students and staff in FISH, and it can be used by both. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. When you have, for example, let's go to the website. So here it is, if we go to a grammar section as an example. The good thing about using WebLearn is you can have instructions, tips, advice for teachers at the same time as something for students. So basically what it means is that you can allow teachers, you can give them advice which the students won't see. So it's like, how do I use this activity? You can use it for this, this and this. And then when you go into the student view, what the students see will be just the activity itself. Okay? So in that way you can combine student and staff approaches really. So to give you more of an example, something about using Turnitin for learning. So we're trying, rather than just as a sort of plagiarism policeman, using it to actually help students learn, for example, about paraphrasing, how to paraphrase more effectively. This section here will not be seen by the student, just by the teacher. Gives you what the resource is about, the aim, the time, and the steps you can follow, quite briefly. Quite simply, it's not a full lesson plan. And you see that's an extract from an anonymised Turnitin assignment. And you've got all the steps down here, including links to guided independent study and things like this. If I go to student view now, which I can do just by clicking this, and going back in, that's what the student sees. So they don't see all the bits from the teacher, they'll just see the activity. And they can read this, they can have a look, they can look at the questions at the bottom, and you can put extra things, like this is the guide to understanding your originality report, for example, a little video, so that kind of thing. So that's the student-facing part of that website. And this is mainly for academic language. So it focuses on things like grammar, different functions, for example, paging language, cautious language, reporting verbs, that kind of thing. So it's the things that aren't in the study hub so much, for example, or don't come under the digital literacies part of things. Okay, so that's that. And And then from the student-facing side, obviously you've got very diverse students, big mixture. You want to, they've got different needs, they need different things in terms of support. So there's actually a heck of a lot of support out there for them. Whether they know about it enough is another issue. So you've got the study hub, which I think is fairly well known and well used compared to some of the others, mainly about academic literacies again. Heroes and Villains, I don't know if you've seen this, but it's developed by Robert Walsh. It was presented at the conference, the L&T conference, so that's about academic integrity, plagiarism, referencing, that kind of thing. That's Library Matters. Library Matters is slightly different from the Study Hub because it's more focused very much on what you might call information literacy, so searching skills, finding reliable information, although it does have things like how to answer an essay question, typical essay words, that kind of stuff. So it's a bit of a mixture really, but that is also a WebLearn organisation, so you can link directly between that and StudyWise quite easily. Okay, so
just to log into people using this, you do, yeah?
So these are behind the London Met wall, basically. All the others are open. Clued Up, that's our digital literacy site, which you might have seen. The idea for this is all the sort of digital study skills, so it might be using things like Zotero, things like Dropbox, different services and apps you can use for study. At the same time, it's also about helping students to manage their digital identity, so their digital profiles, particularly as they move towards graduation, so sort of graduate attributes that they need in terms of digital technologies. So that's Clued Up. I think that's it really. But you can see, I mean, when I was doing this, I can't believe how many resources we've got. There are so many. And yet I think even if this project wasn't going, we'd still need to think, how do we actually make this more coherent and link them all together so people can access them easily? It's quite overwhelming, I think, for some, can be, because there are just so many things. So I think a big part of what we need to do is to try to think of ways to make it more coherent and link between them. One of the things I was thinking about was really trying to have logo or sort of branding for each of them, so we're really clear. If we're talking about Clued Up, has a particular icon, for example, the magnifying glass, or Library Matters, you can see it already has that quite clear symbol which identifies it. This one, so whenever you're linking to Library Matters, that's what you see. Whenever you're linking to Clued Up, you see magnifying glass and Clued Up. Whenever you're linking to Take 5, there's probably, I don't know, one like the film kind of Take 5, or something like this. So start really branding and identifying them, making them more easily identifiable, I think is a good step as well. But in terms of the actual, I think what we want to try and do is link between all of them to each other. So for example, if you've got the module, that shows an example. I put in something like resources for students here. And just a little description of all of the different resources we're talking about. So Clued Up is here, you can just click straight out to that site. Same with Study Hub, Library Matters, Heroes and Villains, and so on. So that would be one place where you can access everything. Okay. And the other thing, I guess, you should have it on the FISH website, and it should be also linked to the CAP framework, which is CPD for academic practice, which Janet talked about last time. So if we can find ways, obviously, to link what we're doing, especially in the staff development side, with this framework, I think that would be useful. Maybe if we can put links on the FISH site somewhere, perhaps we could have a resources for students or something there. Be easy, really easy to do, and just put it out there so it's all over the place. I don't know the process for that, so I don't know if you do, Claire, for getting something on the website.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it would be quite nice to have it there, or even in the student zone as well on the website. So if we're having a student zone, why not put all our resources on there as well? And Chris, you mentioned the student union.
Yeah, the student union got a booklet out. Has everyone seen it? No? I've downloaded a copy. I've only got one copy, so. Student survival guide. Did you see this? There's a link in it to most of the stuff on the study hub. But there's quite a booklet that they printed out. I don't know what's going to, but there's a lot of links to study hub and heroes and villains, obviously. But I still think, I haven't really looked at it. Didn't want to sort of prevent one welcome. But I don't know if it's complete. There's another thing, I was talking to Claire Locke the other day, and she's put together a couple of things to go on the second page of WebLearn, and one of them was Digital Literacy Study Hub.
So that's on the home page when you first go in, is that
Yeah,
right?
I think so. I might be the first or the second, and she's done this design. Some of it's a bit wacky, and there's a little list. Again, I don't know if it's complete to what you've just mentioned here, but it would be good if we coordinated all of those things together. So, next page. Oh, she's loaded it.
I'm not sure where it is, but yeah, I think that's the idea, isn't it? Trying to bring everything together and to show, to showcase it in as many places as possible. Really.
Can I just a technical question about, for example, the WebLearn stuff? You can't link to WebLearn, really, can you? Because you have to.
You can, but you just need to be logged in. So, for example, if you've got one tab with WebLearn and you're logged in already, you can link to another tab and it will just open up without you having to log in. If you go in and you're not logged into WebLearn, it will ask you to log in. Yeah. So you can't just access it open. Yeah.
But if you're creating some kind of place in the website which has links to digital, all those, how would you replicate the WebLearn bits there? You couldn't just go create a link that will click through to that group or that organisation.
No, you can.
You can.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you
But you
just
have to be logged in.
you need to make sure that you have some text saying you will need to be logged in to view this, or for London Met students only, or whatever. A lot of websites do it. If you look at Manchester Met or some of the others, it's like you get so far in their resources and then you click and it's like log
some
in.
of them
That's it. It would essentially be the
That's the
same.
HR.
Oh, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the library catalogue, you can see the results, but if you want to see e-journal, you've got to log in.
Okay. Right, getting.
Yeah. So that's it really for now, I think. But the main thing again, you can put as many resources up as you like. You can get people to find them, but you need to think about how you get people engaging with them, students and staff. So resources is not exactly the problem. It's the processes of how you engage people with them. That's the hard part, I think. Myself and Joe and Susanna are going to sort of work on the language areas of the study-wise WebLearn pages. So just to develop maybe a few materials to start with. So we can start actually introducing them and getting some feedback before we don't want to create hundreds of things and then just someone says, well, I can't use that, that's no good. So we want to do it as a kind of iterative process where we'll get feedback as we go. So we need people involved in that process as well. Really.
Well, I have an email drafted now to send to all the courses and all the teaching staff in Fresh, but I'm still waiting for a few things to stick in there so I don't have to follow up again. But this summary it's a bit like this summary, but yours is I'll use the links and so people can have a look at them.
Yeah.
And that's going to go out soon. And it's induction next week, so I've just had a few visits from ALs to say that they're going to try and push us with the course leaders of certain areas who haven't contacted us yet for academic support. So it's kind of as she has said, pincer movement going on. We'll see whether, I think everyone's just going to get induction out of the way and then I think things might pick up.
The other thing to decide with the WebLearn module is how do we enrol people? Because it's an open module, but I think the best thing to do once it's ready to go out, or at least in a fairly early stage, but you can actually publicise it, then you should enrol everybody just automatically.
Staff and students.
In Fish.
Yeah.
Because that's what we've done with CAS writing, and it's worked really well.
Yeah, well that's
just
good.
there.
I think that sounds good.
But I need to talk to
So
Sandra
how to do it.
Well, no, it's easy to do. It's just we can't do it, she has to.
Okay.
And she's got quite a few things on at the moment.
Have you included as,
Hmm?
have you included as in the module now, or not yet?
I've included some of you, but I will. Just time, just time.
We in the special group.
Yeah, we're in a special group. But I will do that,
Okay, good.
yeah.
That's a good overview, thank you.
So when you, before you publicise this, I'll send it out to everyone. Will you just send it
Run it
to
by
everyone
you
here,
guys, yeah.
just to make sure there's nothing that we've got a list, but I'm sure. Just to double check. Really.
Yeah, that's a, yeah. It'd be nice if it looked a bit nicer than just a Word document, but,
What this?
well, what I'm going to send out.
What do you want to do it
I
as?
don't know.
An infographic or something.
Yeah, a bit like your Prezi thing there, that overview thing. But yeah, again, it's because they're all in such different sites. Maybe we have to say, we're thinking of trying to pull these all together in one site. Where do you think it best is? You know, you could definitely, I know Chris will say it can definitely go on the faculty page somewhere because he can put it on, you know. But yeah, because it falls between cells and us, and you know, whether we haven't even got our own web presence yet.
Yes,
So-
from here, what is push specific, it's push study-wise, isn't it?
Yeah,
Everything else is university-wise.
yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, it's a historic problem, isn't it? Just all those resources produced by different areas, and you know, the left hand not knowing what the right's doing. So, I mean, at least it's, in a way, it's a good opportunity to try to make it more coherent anyway for anyone across the university.
But a lot of this stuff is quite unique, even though some of it's more in depth analysis, like the referencing and the heroes and the library matters. There's a similar thing, but they do attack it in different ways. And one's quite practical, one's more, theory based, and there's no real clashes as far as I can see. I don't know what it's all
No,
about.
there's little overlaps, like
Yeah.
between Library Matters and Study Hub, or between digital literacies and some of the
And
stuff in Study Hub as well. But it's
some of
quite
that's the result
small.
of different people working separately, isn't it?
Exactly.
But some of it is natural over
Yeah,
that.
yeah, absolutely.
Call it reinforcement.
I was going to say,
Reinforcement.
it's always examples of it.
But yeah, it's a lot of resources, and I kind of, when you actually sit down and try to find, we got that. It's quite overwhelming. So if it's overwhelming for me, for a lot of students, it will probably be overwhelming as well, and staff. So it's how do we disseminate it in a kind of coherent way, I think.
Are you explaining other stuff? Is that it? That's it.
Do you want to explain Take 5? Is that
A bit, yeah. I was also going to say something else and what just out there. If that's it. You're not going into detail, include that.
No, not really. Do you want to do that?
I don't put it, but you know that anyway,
no, but do it for the record.
We could give you an update.
We'll give you an update. Yeah, we can give you an update. The only thing the only thing I was going to say is that on the study hub, which I haven't really touched for a while, which will be updated again, because we're adding to it all the time, and current one I'm working on, Heroes of Burns and this, when by next Friday, on Study Hub will change and there will be bigger links to those other 2 or 3 other areas, and on the other areas there'll be links back to the Study Hub. But what I want to make sure, after we're talking today, is to make sure I've got all the ones relevant for student use to be from Study Hub. So Library Matters is on there anyway, but I want them all on there and be more identified.
I think, Study Hub is a good place to start. Are you creating 2 sections of Study Hub now, staff and students, or not?
Staff and students exist differently anyway. I don't know if you know, most of the Study Hub, 99% of it is student-based.
Yeah.
Okay. And there is a little link, you can't really find it if you really look. It's got staff, and you click on it and it goes to a small little page, and that's it. But the idea is that link will change and be a big part of that page. And when that link will then take you to Take 5, which will have loads of stuff on as well. So they will look like they're running in tandem stuff, and it'll be the same sort of reverse link on the staff page.
Okay. So you're working on how that looks then?
Not yet, but it will be done by next week, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Clued up. This will go, if I just did 2 or 3 minutes on each, because I don't want to keep everyone all day, so to see. Has anyone not seen Clued Up?
Me?
Ooh.
Not how it looks there, anyway.
Okay. Well, it is what it is. You know, it says what it is. It's been obviously contents by Jim, which I really like because it's really geared up for the students. That's why I'm presenting. I'm talking about this. Is the first thing I say. It's really student-wise. There's not blocks of text. It's all quite small. There's a little introduction, little idea, then brief explanations of what the sections are, and you can go and do what you like. And there's a brief video to each one. It's difficult using a PC. Okay, so you've got, there's a little introduction, there's that there to get students involved just a bit, because they say, oh, I know what it is, so they get into that. I'll come back to the right hand side in a second. There's the video section, video for each side. Has anyone seen the videos?
Yeah, it's in the videos.
Okay.
Now being used by LSE, by the way. So just thought I'd get that in.
It's on their resources page, isn't it?
Really? Does Soraya?
And UCL.
Yeah.
This one's gone through. I need to check how many people are using it. Really, all this is
Do
all.
you get paid then?
No, it's a free, it's open access. It's a Creative Commons. This is done and done because we're pushing London their brand.
Good advertising.
The only thing is, I'll come back to you about it on here. So anyway, you've got there's 4 titles in each section, and each page is very similar and unique, and they've done to different areas. If you've got an explanation, they give work. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, it's just this.
It's skewed, yeah. Move that over there. So yeah, this bit, yeah, it's a little bit off on this screen as well.
Is it?
So that's it. So the front page is quite simplistic, and the idea is to keep it simplistic. Students to dive in or out. What we've got on the right hand side is to encourage students to become digital ambassadors. And the idea is we recruit the students, and there's a nice page about what that means and what it means to them. And there's a nice little picture down the bottom. Was it this one? Nice. Okay. Right, this one will change. The idea with this is I've done a page that isn't here of pictures of students and what they're doing, their involvement. God, I need to speed up because one of the things we want to do as well, we've got an area where there's going to be apps filmed and people talking about apps and social things, why they use this, why they prefer using that, why this is good like Evernote or not, what they prefer from it. Then we get all the other students to comment on it. And they can almost vote on it as if like a star system at Amazon, see what they recommend, what's better for students, and what's good for them in their area. Really.
Right?
So we've got our first 10 digital ambassadors already, so we're going to start, at the Freshers Week. We're starting, we're going to have a stall and they're going to be talking to people about it and giving out cards and things like this.
Are they some quizzes?
No, Chris is not. Some of our students that we had here, pre-sessional, and some from, the others, Helen and Anna and Anita.
Anita just comes from the other faculty. She saw an advert we done during Freshers last year, and one of the others was one of the students we interviewed as well during Freshers, and they were sort of just talking about it, and they was quite keen. But that hopefully will grow. For Freshers we've got, as well as digital literacies and heroes and villains one, we've got big banners, usual thing, loads of posters, loads of cards. And with this one, we've got, for the 8 sections, no, not 8 sections, we've got 8 cards with icons on like Evernote, and on the other side there's an explanation of what they are.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so we're going to put them out so you might.
Where are you going to be in Freshers Week?
Where?
Where?
Well, we're here and
We're going to both.
is it Camden?
At the house in the basement and here at the gym. And hopefully both stores are together.
In the gym?
The gym here, is it?
Oh, right, okay.
Have you ever been? It's quite interesting.
I mean, the sports store, not a bit of that. I think.
So anyway, that's all. I was just going to show you quick another page. There's information about digital literacy. There's a video on each one. There's also some fantastic resources that Jim's found like this. If you haven't seen it, go on and have a look. Talking about digital, there's only about 9 pages on it at the moment, but each one's already full. And we'll get the students to add, the students to blog, the students to talk about their experience of what they use and why they like it, and to reflect on all the stuff that we're...
And can I just say about the next, so that's the first phase, and the second phase we're getting our students as kind of Trojan horses to go into subject areas. So we're going to sort of identify enthusiastic staff. We already know some of them who are going to do it, and they'll have little focus groups with the student ambassadors, and they'll talk about embedding digital literacy into the curriculum. So how can they, what is digital practice if you study this subject? What does it mean to be a digital student in this day and age, and how can you embed those graduate attributes into the curriculum? So it's kind of trying to drag some of the teaching staff, unwillingly into the 21st century, essentially. So basically, co-creation, student-staff partnership, all that kind of thing. So that's probably after Christmas.
I hope if the students start writing up about that and blogging that, and students and staff will come all the way as well to encourage them.
Sounds good.
So there's a lot of really good stuff on there, by the way. There's about, something about digital identity. There's a lot of push about LinkedIn as well. A lot of students don't know. I do know what it's about, but about how they can get that right from within so when they graduate, and things like this, how they get a job, what people have done. It's just to broaden their minds, to get them talking. It's the biggest thing. Just got a quick. Any questions on that one, by the way?
No.
Really like it. I have to say, I know we've done the work there, but I really do like the project. It's really sort of student engagement. This is take 5. This is what take 5 looks like. It doesn't look very good on there. It's different than what it used to be. That is the logo. We've got all these nice little areas. I don't know if you remember when I first done this. They were bright purple on the whole page, but they're a bit different now. And we've got all the links. All these links work, including yours, Jim. But I know that will change.
What happens when you click on one?
Can we look at one?
You can look at one. But just scroll down the page first. Just to let you know what's in there. There's a rationale behind what it is. There's a blog here, which is really what we want to get people involved in. That's the test blog. I've just done some rubbish, as you can see.
Okay.
So it's sort of based on that. Underneath there's some more information about what it covers, and that's embedded from the study hub.
Yeah.
Keep students, staff active and know what they're doing. So that's sort of it. There's explanations there. And that's it. So if we go and look at one, any particular one?
Merging reading. That
No.
one.
Okay. So, there's quite a basic design. I've got navigation to every page, on every page, at the top and at the bottom. So you don't normally go more than 1 or 2 pages away from where you can get back to. Takes up a bit of space because there's a lot of titles, but then I think it's easy for people to know where they're going. So there's a lot of links, there's a lot of external links, it goes on for a bit, some of them vary, this one doesn't go on so much. You can sort of see what's going on there. The idea is what we're going to do, not sure we're going to do in all the aspects, but we're going to have an introductory short video, head and shoulders of Sandra and Tom or someone talking about what you're going to do in this section, how it's going to help and what you can get out of it.
Very nice.
But we're going to certainly do that for the first page, the welcome page, by next week as well.
Sorry, Chris, if you click on, for example, text mapping, does that link you to instructions on what it is and how to do it? Or?
Which one is it you're looking for?
It says, here are some activities that have worked with us, and then the first bullet point is text mapping. So does that...
Oh no, there's no links. Yeah.
Underneath it is where it describes it.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, got you. Right.
Yeah. I mean, what I've done, Sandra and Tom, Sandra's done an awful lot of work on this, and you know, since they sent me stuff early on, and then since they sent me the next lot, it was almost twice as much. So they've done an awful lot of work here. For me, I've just cut and pasted. I've got some basic design, cut and pasted it in. But what I'd really like to do, as you mentioned, I should be linking that with these. I should be doing that.
I didn't see the stuff underneath.
Well, I haven't read it, so I need to go through it all. And whether that's going to be done by late next week, I don't know, but it certainly will be done in weeks to follow.
Work in progress.
Work in progress, but it's up, and that's the thing. It's up. Again, it's not from a study hub yet, but it will be. You will see the link as of Thursday next week at the latest. Yeah. If we go back to home, if I look at yours, Jim, I've just got that because I copied it from your email, but I thought what we could do, because all the icons are the same, we could copy, you could write something there about going into Weblearn and saying that you need to be logged on here, then it makes sense, and then go straight to the page. Something like that. So initially it seems a bit consistent, instead of going straight from that page to Weblearn, which could be a bit...
And a little screenshot.
Exactly. Any more on take 5? Question?
No, it's good. It looks moved on a lot since last time, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's moved a lot on, yes, okay. I quite like it. If I do this page, a bit like the
Where is
study
it?
hub.
When you go to Study Hub, where's the link to
At the
it?
moment there isn't one,
Okay.
okay?
But
as
that's where you'll get to it, is through Study Hub.
through both, because there'll be study hub and there'll be study hub staff. And each one at the top will have a link to each one. So it doesn't matter which way you go there. Because I'm not anticipating that the staff will go for the student one to get to the staff one. I just think so.
Okay.
That's something else, isn't it, that we need to think about is kind of dividing what's staff facing and what's student facing and then what's both. So, you know, so not actually interlinking between things which are,
Yeah,
you know, not both for students or not both for staff.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you
That's
very
good.
much.
Next one. Shall I talk
Yeah.
about? This one. I don't know why I've got that feeling. The reason I'm doing this is because I can't remember what the link is because it's not live yet. Let's see if that's not going to work. What's it called? Hey, do we have it? Oh, right, okay. It's a shame that this isn't quite lined up, but there it is. Okay. This is definitely work in progress. Most of this is done, but there's a lot more work on there than any of the stuff we've done so far. It's obviously based on some sort of comic book approach of heroes and villains, and there are heroes and villains. And Robert Walsh has done nearly enough 90% or all the content really for this. It's just that I'm writing Tandy and Student Union have changed a few things, but in general it's all Robert's. And it's very full on, but it's broken up into bits. Initially there's tons and tons of text. And at the moment a lot of it still looks like that, but the idea is we're going to try and break down a bit like the digital literacy is one where there'll be some introductory text. And the key point of any of these headings, that one's on, the capacity, achievement, understanding, plagiarism, and each one of them will have a bit. Then underneath that, all the other text in the other areas will be added on as PDFs. Okay, so you can download them if it's a specific topic you want. You can read it or you can download them. Because it's silly putting them up pages and pages on it because no one's going to read it. That's what we think. So this is broken up into this idea, and if you go over these headings, it tells you underneath, it changes what it's about, what each section's about. An argument, which is the biggest chapter. We've got another video with some students talking about what they think plagiarism is, what they do to avoid it, how they use it, what they don't know about it. There's some interesting results there to this. So how to use this site, the usual thing, and each page has got one of these lovely little things. Some of them are quite okay. These are my ones, by the way. I've done them as an introduction, thinking that they would change all these texts, but they decided to keep them. And they're quite simple, they're basically a little bit comical. The good thing, the drawings are very different to Robert's drawings. Robert's drawings are really fine art design, great stuff. So to do it is quite a contrast to have something like that. So each page has got one of these. Links to the study hub, library matters, digital literacies, making references. So at the moment there's stuff like that already linking, but I want to make sure at one stage, certainly by next week, that all of it links together. So briefly, again, Facebook, and there's a Twitter feed on here that comes from the study hub, so you can interlink. Students can have, if they've got an issue with any of the topics we talked about so far, that will come up onto a separate window within different areas. So I've got a site for you. It's one of Robert's heroes. And there's a description of each section. This isn't quite finished yet. I'm going to do something a bit more jazzy with this. We'll let students see this and they'll come back to us with some feedback. And they actually like the beginning, so it's quite jazzy and nice, but then it gets a bit dull. So we're going to try and change this to make it look like a similar thing, really. So each section's got a hero or a villain. This guy here, we've just ordered a poster of 6 feet tall doing that, which we're going to put up for freshers as well.
Is that a fried egg?
It is a fried egg, and why would we think we've got a fried egg? It's been cheated and he's got egg on his face because he's been found out. And it's a very continuous link. There you go. And this guy, he's cutting and pasting. I know, come on.
Tenuous.
Anyway, so this is collusion, of course. And there's a few of these other ones, he's got definitions of these things. And this one, which is pretty horrible, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, so this guy just takes everyone's work without referencing, and these are the screaming souls that are reference. Anyway, so each one of these, there's a lot of sections here. I can give you a brief example of one, probably, maybe that one. So there's a different cartoon, if you like. There's some text, some information, and down the bottom we've got links again, saying why you should link to these ones. But normally what happened down the bottom here, there's PDFs, which we would go to. Okay. There's about 4 pages on here that are blank at the moment, but that should change. So they look a bit like that.
Being time realistic, that's good.
It's a fantastic poster. Robert's done these big posters, which I ordered again today, and one of them's about time realistic, about a student just sitting down with a trainer's reading a comic or something, and there's all these giant clocks with sort of pulled down faces doing this, trying to enclose us face and stuff. You'll see them around in the next couple of weeks. There's a few, and that's sort of it with heroes and villains. There's a lot of references back to the library and practical practices, a bit of references back to our digital literacy site, because Jim's done a really good filming session what we've done here in 2 minutes, which is on an app on a phone that helps you reference. So there's some practical sides and other areas just this, but a lot of this is theory, a lot of this is based on all the academic literature that Robert's found, and he's gone to other universities and he's pulled all this together. There's a lot of reading here. It's a lot about being academic and students understanding, but I think this is a really key area. It's a really different way of doing it. Instead of just having our practical bit on the library saying this is saying why you do it. This is why you reference. This is why you learn. This is how you become a better academic. And I think that's something we need to have that we hadn't had before. And it's strange it's done like this, but there you go. I think that's it. Is that
Where's
all
that? That can go through the study hub again then?
That will.
So sorry.
That will go through the study hub. It will be, because we've got on the study hub, we've got, well, that look at there, on this business.
You're sitting there, aren't you? Yes, it's sitting there. You can go down. I need to redesign this, because I quite like this, but I also know that the things we've been talking about need to be more prominent. So, not sure how we're going to break this up, but I will break it up. I might well get rid of these 2 characters and put them either side or something. And also needs to be a link to the staff. So at the moment there's all these links here and stuff on both sides. There's a lot, some of the Robert's stuff that is from talking about being academic is in here as well, but it's quite small and there'll be links to those. So yeah, this page will need to change a bit. Don't worry about that.
Good though. You're going to use the logo idea that Jim said.
It's quite good, isn't it?
Yeah.
And almost what might be good, if I'm doing something like that here, so at the top could be an icon for Study Hub, they could say you're on it. Next one could be digital literacies, and then something else. And the order, really, for me, what I would like is the order to be the same on every site. Do you know what I mean? So the order becomes familiar. And also it should be an order of importance. It should be an order that makes sense in some way.
You can always do it alphabetically.
Alphabetically might be good. Does that mean?
It's non-judgmental.
It is.
And include that would be at the top, isn't it?
Academic honesty and integrity.
Yeah,
Heroes and villains.
Change study-wise to...
Study wise, yeah. Just call it A study.
Study-wise.
Yeah, A study.
Oh, study-wise.
But I like the idea of having the icons. I like the idea of having some sort of order. Whether that's going to be difficult to do, I don't know. But just so that you know which one you're on, and somehow we can have that logo black and white or something different when you're on it. And just to say that you're on this one.
Yeah, the logo thing's a good one.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Can I just ask Chris, technical question, the calendar, how do I get stuff put on that calendar?
On that particular calendar,
Yeah,
you'd say Metri upstairs.
so Metri puts it up.
When Metri puts it up, she does it via Google Calendar. There is, if
just a thing that takes you to the calendar, and I should do. Okay, there's the calendar. Now this is on a Weebly site. If anyone knows Weebly, this is actually outside the university, and I can get my wrist slapped for doing it. But I created this page because it was down to me at one stage, and I wasn't always here. I was busy, and so Matthew does it 9 times out of 10, which is not here. Even Digby puts it in sometimes because everyone myself in the office have got access to it, and which we couldn't seem to sort out within London Met for some reason. So at the moment, until we do,
It's not very optical enough.
so,
We haven't drawn blood.
so that might change. But the other thing with this is when they put this in, this has got a direct link as well with WebLearn front page. So if you look at the WebLearn front page and look at this, you'll notice all the stuff that's coming from South.
Feeds in.
Yeah, feeds
That'll
in.
feed into the study-wise stuff as well then, yeah?
No, it's the WebLearn homepage. Before you log in, you've got the embedded calendar, which shows those events go into that embedded calendar, which has lots of other things in it as well. But you still then need to log in to get to the study-wise site already.
Well, that's good to know.
But don't forget the calendar on the main study hub, no, on the main WebLearn page that every student sees lists everything throughout the university. So they see a bit of the study hub, which is good for us. There's also the library stuff there, and workshops, of course, that run on this mezzanine floor. All that's there. So if you're doing your thing, that's really what that should be done. And when I was talking to Sandra about the Take 5 blog, and we were talking about how we need to get the staff to push more active, and how is it possible, I suppose, that when we put something up, like once every 2 weeks, they're not bombarded, that the staff actually get that information and they can feed from it directly. I think there should be a way that we can try and do this. If we don't, we're not going to get people active on a lot of these things, which is what we do with students a bit. So I don't know if that's worth.
We did mention about the Google group, but that wouldn't go out to everyone, but it would have interested people, well, in inverted commas, hopefully interested people signed up, so they could get the updates.
Okay, be good if they are updated. It's only going to be one blog from Sandra every 2 weeks. It's just going to be one small thing. But if staff like it, they can contribute to it. And everything we put in the blog, which I showed you earlier, will be monitored before we put it up, and then we add to it, and then people can put comments, and we add that as well.